Hello everyone. So welcome to this tutorial for the new ACE system that I want to present today to you. Um, Many of you would have known the old way that we were doing all the previous years. We were calculating the annual catch estimates through the use of Excel templates, and this year it's going to be totally different. We've developed a brand new system which is entirely integrated to TUFMAN2, which is the beauty of the system. So it's all happening under TUFMAN2 for this year for the calculation of the annual catch estimates. So without any delay, let's dive into this system. So I'm going to show you and kind of demonstrate how you can use this new system for doing these calculations. So let's go to this new system. So I have started TUFMAN2 interface. As you can see, this is the test interface for us. But by the time you see this video tutorial, it will have been included into the production version of TUFMAN2, the one you will be using. So as you can see in the menu of TUFMAN2, you've got a new option in the menu, which is called Annual Catch Estimate, ACE, Annual Catch Estimation Report. So this is where we want to do this video. So I've taken FSM as an example. So the first thing to do in this interface is to create a new ACE. So you will have to do this if you've got a long line fleet, but you will have to redo this if you've got a purseine fleet or a polar line fleet. So potentially you might have three ACEs for your own country. So I'll just click on this new ACE, and here we want to add the details for the ACE. So this year, and we are in 2024, we just want to calculate the ACEs for 2023. So this is what I'm writing here. And let's say that we want to have advice on purseine for this one. Once I've selected this parameter, I just have to click on save, and this is it. I'm creating the interface for building my ACEs for purseine. So as you can see on this screen, you've got several sections to calculate the annual catch estimates. All these sections are on various tabs that you can see here. The first one being the instructions. Instructions are just detailing each of the tabs and what they correspond to. You've got tab 1, National Fleet, tab 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the last one, which is the annual catch estimates. So let's go and see the instructions. Each of the tab is described here under each heading, and instead of clicking on the tab, you can go and click on this button, which will drive you on the tab. So if I click on go to tab for vessel composition, I will be taken directly on the vessel composition tab. So just to highlight that it's a step-by-step estimation method as it's written here. And so to calculate your annual catch estimates, you will have to go through each of these steps. So what are these steps exactly? The first one is national fleet. So this is where you will be listing your national fleet for 2023. So once you've done this, you will have to check in the list of vessel that you are being displayed if these are all your national fleet vessels for 2023, or if some vessels might be missing. In case some vessels are missing from this list, you should get back to us to tell us such or such a vessel is missing. You should add it, and we'll do this modification. Sometimes there might also be some extra vessels that were not in your national fleet. Same thing, get back to us and tell us, no, this vessel wasn't in our national fleet in 2023 or the year before. So this is the first tab, National Fleet. Second tab is the missing log sheets. So this is where you will be listing all the log sheets from 2023 that are missing in TUFMAN2, and we can do this by comparing what's in TUFMAN2 and the VMS data. And so we'll be able to tell you, okay, such or such a log sheet trip is missing. So you should, in this case, you should probably chase the log sheet with the fishing company, or maybe it's a matter of entering the backlog. Too much backlog to enter. In this case, feel free to get back to us because we can help with the data entry. So this is all possible to help you guys at SPC for the entry in order to fill in these missing log sheets. Third tab is the vessel composition. So this is where you will indicate how your fleet is composed. So you will indicate the number of vessels by size class. Next tab is the logsheet tab. So in this tab, you will be able to run a report, the same report as the one you were running in the previous years on the Excel template, but it's all integrated into the interface now. And so you will be able to run this report in order to have a logsheet summary of your catch and effort for the previous year. Then the next tab is the observer one, and this is exactly the same, but for observer data. So you will be running a report, and then you will get some observer data summary with average catches and things that are very useful for the calculation of the annual catch estimates. The next tab is the summaries. In this tab, you will be calculating some summary information like the total number of trips, the coverages of log sheets, things like this, but we'll see this in more details very soon. Once you've done all these tabs up to summaries, you go to the next one, which is the calculation method. This is where you are going to be presented kind of a summary of your information that you've calculated just before. And from this summary information, you are going to be proposed several calculation methods for your ACEs. And the calculation methods depend on the coverage of each data source. Basically, it depends on your data. So I'll come back more in more detail on these calculation method, but this is basically where you select the calculation methods, which will generate your final ACEs. So this is an important tab, this one, and you have to be really careful on the methods that you are selecting. The last tab is the catch estimates, which will show you the final annual catch estimates that you've determined, that you've calculated, and that you will be submitting to us for review. There's a small command field if you need to put any comment on any of these parts. So feel free to put any comments, so that might help us evaluating your ACEs. So now it's time to get back to the first section, which is the national fleet. So I can either click on here or click on here, and I am in the national fleet. So here you will be able to list all the vessels for your national fleet. And for this, you will need to click on Get Data. But first of all, I might just tell you that these two buttons enable you to go once again to the next section or the previous section. So you can either do this or again click on straight on the tab header. So what I want to do here is to get the data. So this basically runs an internal report from TUFMAN2 that will get the data out of the TUFMAN2 database. So this might take a little while, but you can just wait for the list to be displayed, and then you get the list of vessels. Noting that you can access the vessel definition by clicking on this button on the right side. So what you need to do here is to check that all of these vessels, which should display the IRCS, UVI, and FFA ID in the final version of this system. So you need to check that each of these vessels do belong to your national fleet for the previous year, which is 2023 for this year. If one of these vessels doesn't belong to your national fleet for 2023, please send me, a small email or a small Slack message saying, okay, for example, no, this vessel doesn't belong, Pacific Pursuit 777 doesn't belong to our national fleet for 2023. Can you please remove it from our national fleet? And we'll do the modification, and then you will relaunch this report and it should not appear anymore. On the other end, if one of the vessel of your national fleet is missing from this list, you also need to let us know, and we'll add it so that you can see it on this list. So this is all you have to do here for this first tab, which is the national fleet. Next tab is the missing logsheets tab. So here you will be listing all the logsheets that are missing for 2023, which means that some vessels might have fished in your area or outside from your national fleet, but some of their trips don't appear under TUFMAN2. And for calculating the annual catch estimates, you want to have as many trips in the system as possible, because you want basically your trip coverage, your data coverage, to be as high as possible. You don't want to have only 50% of your trips reported in the system, because in this case your annual catch estimates will be less precise, because you would need to estimate the other 50% that you don't have in the system. So what you want to do here, you want to see all the trips that are missing, and you want to chase the information in order to get the trip and enter it into the system. So basically here you also click on this button here, get data, and sometimes for some countries it will be quicker than some others. This time it was quite quick. So you get the list of all these trips that are missing. So for example, for this Pacific Pursuit, there was a trip from the 26th of June 23 to the 31st of July 23, and the vessel has been fishing apparently for an estimated 33 days. So you need to chase these trips. If for your countries this report was taking a long time to display, it's still run in the background, whatever you're doing. So you could go back to National Fleet, for example, and come back to missing log sheets. But then after a while, you just have to click on this button, which is a button to refresh the grid that's just under. Okay, so it might be that this report takes a little bit longer than planned, and after a while you can refresh the grid by clicking this specific refresh button. In the case that this report never displays for a reason or another, it shouldn't be the case, but in the case it happens, you can also run the same report directly from TUFMAN2 report. This option that you've got at the top next to ACE, you can open the report and run it straight from TUFMAN2. You might have more chance to have this report running properly in some cases by opening TUFMAN reports. But usually it should all work in this new system. But as we are in the testing phase, we thought we might include a link to the report under TUFMAN2, a direct link. So once you've chased all of the missing trips and they have been entered in the system, if you rerun the get data, you should get a list which is smaller. With ideally, you don't want to have any lines here, because you want to have all the trips in the system. Once again, that's for a matter of coverage, data coverage. The higher the data coverage, the more precise will be your annual catch estimates. Next tab is the vessel composition. So this is a very basic report giving you the vessel composition by size class. And once again, you just click on Get Data, and the system will automatically fill in all the information. If there's a problem with the numbers because you think it should be different to these numbers, just get back to us and we'll review this and see where is the problem. It might be that one of the vessels is not listed in your national fleet, or there's an additional vessel that shouldn't be listed once again. So this would affect this report for sure. So come back to us if there's any problem, but it should be the real number of vessels by size class for your national fleet in 2023. Next tab is the logsheet, the section number 4, the logsheet. So that's where we are going to calculate all logsheet based summary, catch summary. And this, you will notice that this form, this section is a little bit different because we're getting straight into the heavy data, the logsheet data. So you've got a grid as well where you are going to get the data, and we'll do this now. So we're getting the data from the reports that's internal to this system. So it might take a little while for this one, so that's not too bad here. In case it's taking a long time, you can go again, you can go and do something else. You can go back to the vessel composition, missing logsheet or whatever. And then when you come back to logsheet, you click on this refresh button, which are the two small arrows. Don't try to run it again by pressing get data, because it's still running in the background. So you would only start again the process and it would take longer. What you have to do is potentially refresh at some stage. So this gives you the logsheet summary for 2023. In case you want to have a look, because you're interested looking at previous years, like for example 2022, 2021, you have the possibility to do so, but it's just for exploration or for curiosity. And if you click on this small wheel on the right side, you would be able to change the year, which is by default the previous year. Okay, so you would potentially put 2022 here, and you would click on get the data. I won't do this, and as you can see here, by default it's the 2023 data that's displayed here. So just to note that this area here, this grid, is the working grid. This is where you work with your summary. And once you're happy with the summary, and it should be as soon as you get the data, it should be the right summary, the right data. What you have to do is to copy all the values, and you are being asked confirmation. Do you want to copy this data? So all the modification of the second grid will be lost. So I'm clicking on yes, and I'm copying all the result of the working grid into the final logsheet reported data grid. And it tells you, okay, both grids are identical. Usually that's the only thing you have to do, because this should be your final grid. So once you've done and copied this grid, you have therefore calculated for each species the catch during 2023, the raised catch, the number of VMS day coverage for these species, and the discards as well, which will be used in the calculation of the ACEs. So after that, you can go to the next tab, which is Observer data. So let's go to Observer data. So once again, you've got this system of double grid. You have a first working grid, and then the final grid. Okay, this is the one that's going to be taken from for the annual catch estimates. So what we want to do here, we also want to click on the get data in order to get the data into the working grid. And we can see here that it was very fast, and we do get all of the data for each species with some average numbers, average kilograms per trip per day, and all of these data that's going to be used for the annual catch estimates. So again, if you need to explore, like for example, also if you don't have any observer data for the previous year, for 2023, you might want to get the data from a previous year. And in this case, you would indicate the year that you want to explore. So if we were to explore 2022, for example, I would click on get the data, and it will generate the data for another year. All your modification will be lost. I don't care because it's going to override this this grid. And then what you have here is all the data summary for 2022 as written here. In our case, it was not needed. It's not needed because we've got some observer data here for 2023. So I will get again the data for 2023. So as you can see, I've got all my 2023 data. Once I'm happy with that, I'm just clicking on this copy button, and it will copy all the numbers from the first working grid into the final grid, which is the bottom one, which is the one that's going to be used for the ACEs, for observer data. Next tab, let's go to summaries. So I can click on next if I want to go to the next tab. And again, for this one, I've only got one grid, and I just need to click on the get data in order to get all these information. And these are all about the number of trips that have been calculated from VMS, but also from observer data, and the various coverage for observer trips, observer days, and logbook coverage. It might be that for some of you that don't have VMS data connected to TUFMAN2, some of you we might not be able to calculate the logbook coverage, for example, from the VMS data, and therefore you would have to put your own logbook coverage. For some of the countries that don't have VMS data, they know, for example, that they've got 100% coverage, which means that they know that all of their log sheets would have been entered in the system. So they can manually write here 100%. They can update this. Okay. We won't do this here because it was 97. It just opened another tab in the browser, but I didn't want to do that. So this is it for the summaries tab. Okay, the next tab after summaries is the calculation method tab, which is quite an important tab because this is where you are going to calculate and to use the right calculation for estimating your annual catch, basically. And there's a number of methods for calculating your ACEs, and I'll describe them straight after. But then what you have here is a grid, which is a summary basically of what you've calculated before. And you can see that this grid is organized by species category, so tuna, billfish, and sharks. And there's a retained grid and also a discarded grid. So the first grid is for retained catch, and the second one is for discarded catch. So let's go through the retained one. So you've got all the tunas together, and then each tuna species described, and then same for billfish, same for shark, and then you have for each species several methods that are shown, several columns, and the goal of this is that you're going to choose which column you want to use for the calculation of your ACE, and it will depend on each calculation that we'll see straight after that. But all you have to know here is that by default we are recommending some specific methods for each species. And as you can see, most of it here is method number 2, but for some of them, for some species like big eye, skipjack, and yellowfin, method number 3 has been recommended. Okay, so this is the method, for example, method number 3. This is the method that is selected, but you might want to select another one. depending on what you think should be the truth for your annual catch estimates. You might choose number 2. And basically, if you choose number 2, method number 2, it will choose the number that's yeah, you have to shift to the next one to see the differences. So you will choose the number that's associated to the method that you've selected. So basically, in green here, you see the amount of catch that will be taken into account for your annual catch estimate. If I'm going back to method number 3 and then move to the next one, you can see that method number 3 is selected now for your annual catch estimates. Okay, and this is what is reported here. Basically, this is exactly what you've selected here is reported here, and this last column shows you your final estimates, at least for this grid, for retain catch. So now let's have a look at these different methods which are based on different data sets. As you can see here, method number 1 and method number 2 are based on observer data. Basically, whatever you've calculated in the observer tab here is going to be used, and mainly averages. All these average column that you can see here, average number of retained catch per trip, or average number of discard per trip, average kilogram retained per trip, and you've got the same but per day as well here. So basically, method number 1 uses these average catch per trip, and what it does, it raises the result to the total number of trips that you have calculated under summaries. Here you've got the number of the total number of trips and the total number of days here. So what it does for the method number 1 is to raise this average catch per trip and raise it to the total number of trips. And method number 2 is a little bit different, a little bit more precise because it's based on days and not trips. So it uses the averages, the average catch per day, and raise it to the total number of days. It's not trips here, total number of days. Okay. So it should give a result that's quite similar, but with few differences because the second one is based on the kilograms per day average raised to the total number of days. Method number 3 is not based on observer, it is based on logsheet, a logsheet summary that you would have calculated in tab number 4. So basically what it does here is to use the raised catch in metric ton. So it takes whatever is in this column and push it to method number 3, as you can see. And so this method number 3, which is based on logsheet, is usually preferred and recommended for tuna species that are very common, like big eye, skipjack, and yellowfin, because we consider that these species are properly reported on the log sheets, the triple log sheets. Whereas all of the species, it might be a little bit harder to find them sometimes in the log sheets. So that's why we prefer usually method 2, which is based on observer averages raised to total trips or total days. So that's why for retained catch, for all species, we recommend method number 2 for PerSeINE, apart from big eye, skipjack, and yellowfin. Okay. So this is it for method number 1, 2, and 3. Now method number 4 is sort of a combination between method number 2 and method number 3. It's a sort of interpolation between these two. What it does is to calculate the proportion of tuna, only big eye, skipjack, and yellowfin. So the total amount of these 3 species, and taking the proportion between observer method and logsheet method. And whatever this proportion is, it applies it to the method 2 number. So that will give you something not necessarily in between, but taking into account these 2 methods. Last method is method number 5, and it's a method which is based on logsheet estimates of discard. raised to total trips. So this is only for the second grid for discards. And so you could have you could choose method number 5 if, for example, you don't have a clear estimation of the discards with observer data because of the coverage maybe, and you know that the discards have been properly reported under your log sheet summary. You see, it's here, this column of discards. If you think it's been properly reported and you've got a good log sheet coverage, then you would potentially select this method number 5 here. But usually for discards, it's always method number 2, which is recommended. So that's why by default you would have all the green stuff on method number 2 here. So once you've filled in all the calculation method and you're pretty sure that it's approximately what is your annual catch estimates, you end up with these two green columns that are the final estimates. And it's time to go to the last tab, which is these two columns, which have been reported here and there. And this grid basically shows you your final annual catch estimates. So retained, discarded, and both added together. Once you're happy with your annual catch estimates and you don't think you have to change the calculation for your ACE, the only thing you need to do is to click on validate for review. Don't hesitate to put any comment. If you've got some specific comment on your ACEs, you can put it in any of these tabs in this field. Okay, but once you think you're finished, you can validate for review, and this will send us a small email saying, okay, FSM in this case has validated their ACEs, and they want you to review. So they want us to review and to see if it's okay for us on our side. So this is it for the calculation of ACEs for per SEINE for your country. To summarize what you have to do, you have to go through each of these tabs one after each other. National fleet, missing log sheet. Usually these two, they should potentially be done before the tuna data workshop. And some of you have done this chasing for missing log sheets already. National fleet, we can do this on site. We can make some modifications. You just let us know if there's a modification to be done, and we do it instantly. Then you have to indicate your vessel composition each time by getting the data through this button, getting the log sheet estimates here, get data as well. Once again, if the report takes too long and you don't see it appearing, you can do something else. And then once you come back, you can go, for example, observer, or you can go back here. And once you come back, you can just refresh. Just don't rerun by getting the data, because this would start again the process from scratch. So you just want to refresh. Once you've done log sheet, you go to observer and you calculate all the observer average weights, summaries, all the number of trips, the number of days, the coverages. And then the important tab is the calculation method. And once again, this is an important screen, an important tab, an important section. And we can help with this if you don't feel comfortable with the explanation given on methods. But usually, apart from specific cases, you would keep the default method which have been selected. But it might be that you see, for example, here in this one, it seems like the selected method as 0 when it's been reported on log sheet. Something has been reported here, so you would definitely here potentially select method number 3, so that at least the reported amount appears in your estimates. Yeah, so once you've finished doing these selection of methods, you're almost finished. So you just go to catch estimates, and you can verify all your annual catch estimates here. Put any comment that you might want to put in here. something that might help us understand why maybe you've selected another calculation method and you've preferred another one, but we might not know exactly why you've preferred it. So it would be a good area to explain us. And then you click on validate for review, and that closes your estimates. The usual process is that we will review, and we will reopen your estimate if we think that something is not right. So we would indicate you what is not right. You would review the modification, and you would validate for review again until we reach the final version, which is validated and closed. So this is very simple. This is all you have to do, at least for per SEINE, but it's the same, of course, for other gear types.